I don't usually talk about cases like this. Not to civilians. Hell, not even to other cops. But I've been sitting on this one for 3 years, and lately, I keep seeing her face every time I close my eyes. Not just her, all of them. I've gotta let this story out somewhere, and this seems like the place. Let me start from the beginning. It was the spring of 2022, just after Easter. I was assigned to a homicide unit in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a quiet enough place most of the year, with a small-town vibe and a manageable crime rate. Nothing ever truly heinous happened here. Or so I thought. I'd been with the force almost 15 years by then, worked a lot of domestic violence cases, a few gang-related shootings, the occasional robbery gone wrong. But nothing could have prepared me for the Auburn Lane case. It started like a ripple in a pond. Small. Barely noticeable. A missing persons report. Just another girl who hadn't come home after a Tinder date. Her name was Jessica Monroe. 23. Auburn hair, green eyes, nose ring, wore oversized flannel shirts over crop tops like it was the 90s. According to her roommate, she was the kind of person who always texted back. Every single time. So when she didn't come home after a date the night before, her roommate Claire filed the report right away. I was on call that weekend and got the assignment that Saturday afternoon. First stop, their apartment near 6th and Briggs, a messy 2-bedroom unit with laundry baskets doubling as furniture and a smell of incense clinging to every fabric. Claire was anxious, pacing, her voice trembling like she just chugged 3 Red Bulls. She told me his name was Brian. Brian something. They met on Tinder. She sent me a pic of him before she left, but she didn't tell me where they were going. She showed me the pic on her phone. He looked normal. White guy, maybe 28 or 29. Short brown hair, that typical charming boy next door smile, scruffy chin. Something about his eyes, though, I remember pausing on the photo. His pupils seemed just a little too small. Like he was staring into bright lights. Or into people. I left with as much info as I could squeeze out of Claire. I pulled Jessica's phone records, started scraping her Tinder activity with a warrant. Within 48 hours, I had a name. Brian Keller. 31. Lived alone in a rental house on Auburn Lane, just outside the city limits. Worked remotely in IT. No priors. Quiet guy, according to the rental agency and his neighbors. Never loud, never brought anyone over, kept to himself. So naturally, I went to check him out. Auburn Lane was one of those eerie suburban streets where the houses all looked like they'd been built by the same lazy architect. Same beige vinyl siding, same cookie-cutter layout, same overgrown bushes like nobody had the motivation to trim them. But Brian's place was different. His was the only house on the street with blackout curtains drawn tight on every window. Even in the middle of the day, it looked like a place that didn't want sunlight. I knocked. No answer. Knocked again, louder. Still nothing. I circled around the back. The grass was knee-high. His garbage bins were packed to the brim. I peeked through the back window and saw nothing, pitch black. I should have left then. Waited for a warrant. But something felt off. That gut feeling we get sometimes, it was screaming at me. So I went around and knocked on a neighbor's door. Her name was Martha Sinclair, about 70, still in her slippers, peeking through her screen door like she was expecting the Grim Reaper. She was clutching a mug that said "Best Grandma Ever," and I could tell she was holding back more than she let on. Brian? He's a quiet one. Kinda strange, if you ask me. Sometimes I hear noises at night. Like dragging. I always assumed it was just him moving furniture. Dragging. That one word froze the blood in my veins. I called it in. Told dispatch I was requesting a wellness check, standard procedure. Within an hour, I had backup. We got the warrant the next morning and went in. And Jesus Christ. The first thing that hit me when we opened the front door was the smell. Not just rot. Something sharper. Like metal. Or blood that had soaked into the wood. The entryway was completely bare. Not a single picture on the walls. No coat hooks, no shoes, no signs of life. The living room had an old TV, turned off. One beige couch with a tear in the cushion. Nothing else. But the basement? That's where it started getting wrong. It was cold. Freezing, even though it was spring. I remember touching the wall and pulling my hand back. It was wet, clammy. There were no light switches, just a hanging bulb that barely lit up the concrete floor. The whole basement was empty, except for a plastic tarp in the center, and what was under it. We found Jessica. Or, parts of her. She'd been dismembered. Carefully. Methodically. There was no blood splatter, no mess, like he'd cleaned the place down to the pores in the cement. All of her pieces were wrapped in plastic and labeled with duct tape, left arm, torso, head. We also found a burner phone. With videos. I can't talk about those here. Not in detail. But I'll tell you this, the man in those videos wasn't the Brian in the Tinder photo. His face was cold. Empty. Like he was just doing a task. Like he was fixing a broken chair, not taking apart a human being. And Jessica wasn't the only one. There were 4 other girls on that phone. All different. All missing. All believed to have run away or ghosted their friends. And one of them, a girl named Maya Thompson, missing from Pittsburgh, was last seen over 6 months ago. After we found Jessica's remains in the basement, we shut the place down like it was radioactive. Yellow tape. Forensics team in full suits. News vans showed up within 2 hours. The neighbors were peeking from behind curtains like it was Christmas morning and they were waiting for a disaster to unwrap. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was shaken, I've seen bodies before. It was the way he did it. The precision. The coldness. There was no passion, no rage, no chaos. Just, system. I couldn't stop thinking about the labels on the duct tape. It was like he was organizing possessions. Not victims. We brought everything in for analysis. The forensics team confirmed what I suspected, she'd been dead for less than 24 hours before we found her. She probably died the same night she met him. And the basement? Scrubbed with industrial-strength peroxide and bleach. No fingerprints. No DNA that didn't belong to Jessica. But the rail break came from the burner phone. It wasn't password protected. There were 5 videos. Each one between 7 and 12 minutes. Each with a different woman. Always in the same room, that same goddamn basement with the tarp on the floor, the single bulb swaying above. They weren't snuff films. He didn't record the murders. But he filmed after. He talked to them. Calmly. Like a therapist. Sometimes while pacing. Sometimes while standing completely still. Tell me about your childhood. What do you think happens when we die? You smell like vanilla. I used to like vanilla. It was clear he got something out of making them talk before he killed them. One of the girls, a blonde with a heart-shaped tattoo on her collarbone, kept asking if her mom was okay. Over and over. She was tied up, but not gagged. She was crying, hiccuping, just pleading. And he just watched. Like she was a specimen. It took everything in me not to slam the laptop shut and throw it through the wall. We ID'd her 2 days later. Her name was Haley Peterson, 26, originally from Scranton. Been missing since early January. Reported missing by her sister, but no follow-up ever done. Small town department probably just thought she ran off. Her social media hadn't been touched in 4 months. Her last Instagram photo was a selfie captioned, "First date nerves wish me luck." We tracked her Tinder activity. And guess who she matched with? Brian Keller. Only back then, he went by Lucas. That was our next lead, aliases. Turns out, he'd used 5 different names across 3 different dating apps. Brian, Lucas, Mike, Tyler, and Cole. Each with a different set of photos, different bios, but the same patterns. Ages 25 to 32. Lived alone. Worked remote. Loved dogs. And most importantly, he never messaged first. He let them come to him. And when they did, he'd start slow. A few compliments. Some deep conversation. Maybe a shared trauma. It was all tailored. He probably mirrored their language, mimicked their humor. Became whatever they wanted. And then he'd suggest a quiet night at his place. A few of the conversations were still cached in the app servers. One stood out. A girl named Danielle, from Baltimore. He'd sent her a message the night before we arrested him, asking her if she liked whiskey and board games. Thing is, we still didn't have him. When we raided his house, he wasn't there. The rooms were clean, bed sheets stripped, fridge empty. Even the trash was gone. It was like he'd vanished. We tracked his main phone, last ping was 36 hours prior in Lancaster County. Then silence. Either he tossed it, or he was buried somewhere in a field. But there were no signs of suicide. No goodbye note. No blood trail. Just, gone. So we did the only thing we could, we ran his face through facial recognition. And that's when we got something interesting. 3 weeks before Jessica's murder, Brian, or whoever he really was, showed up on a traffic cam in New Jersey, driving a different car than the one parked outside his Harrisburg home. A blue Dodge Charger. Plates were registered to a man named Ethan Harris. Ethan, as it turned out, was real. 33. Lived alone. But was also reported missing back in 2020. No foul play suspected, just a guy who dropped off the grid. Only now it looked like his identity had been stolen. So here's what we were dealing with. A killer who changed names like socks. Stole cars. Used dating apps as his hunting grounds. And could disappear like a ghost. He wasn't just a serial killer. He was a fucking chameleon. That night, I went home and sat in my kitchen with the lights off. There was this photo on my fridge, me and my niece from last Christmas. She's 22. Loves horror movies. Dating some guy she met online. And all I could think about was, what if she matched with someone like him? What if she thought she was just going on a date? What if she ended up wrapped in plastic under someone's basement floor, her name written in duct tape like leftovers? That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit back and wait for Brian Keller to pop up again. I was going to find him. A week after Jessica's body was discovered, a new hit came in. Not from facial recognition this time, this one came from a motel owner in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, about 40 minutes from Harrisburg. He saw the news coverage of our guy's face and called it in. That's the guy who checked into room 209. Paid cash. Looked clean, quiet. Gave the name Brent Taylor. He stayed 3 nights. Left in a rush. Room smells like bleach now. We got there less than 2 hours after he called. It was one of those 2-story roadside motels, faded blue trim, ice machine outside, vending machine humming like it was possessed. No security cameras. The manager handed us the key and a stale cup of coffee like he was handing over a crime scene he wanted nothing to do with. Room 209 looked normal at first. Clean bed, no luggage, lights off. But it smelled off. You ever walk into a space that smells like bleach and mold at the same time? Like someone tried to erase a memory, and failed? The scent clung to the curtains, the sheets, the goddamn air itself. We searched everything. Every drawer, vent, outlet, light fixture. And behind the mattress, we found it. A duffel bag. Black. Worn. Zipper half jammed from overuse. Inside were a roll of plastic tarp, zip ties, duct tape, a Polaroid camera, and a manila envelope, sealed. The camera had 3 instant photos still developing in the back pouch. One was just black. Another was a blurry close-up of a face, a woman, maybe mid-30s, half smiling with what looked like a bruise forming under her eye. The third was a picture of the motel's bathroom floor, with a hand visible on the tile. No body in the room. No blood. Not even a hair strand. But then we opened the envelope. Inside were 7 handwritten letters, each on different hotel stationery, different cities, different years. All addressed the same way. To whoever finds this. Here's the first one. I never showed this to the press. It's burned into my skull. I'm not a monster. I don't enjoy pain. But I also don't care about the rules everyone else lives by. I stopped pretending a long time ago. These women, they saw me. I let them see the real me. That's more than most people ever get. I don't keep trophies. I keep memories. I can't explain it. Maybe I don't need to. Maybe none of this will matter after I'm gone. The truth is, I'm not running. I'm wandering. When the voices stop, I'll stop too. It wasn't an apology. It was a declaration. We ran fingerprints. The ones on the Polaroid matched the partials from Brian's house. So did the prints on the duffel bag. But still no sign of him. We pulled traffic cams within a 30-mile radius. One caught a glimpse of the blue Dodge Charger pulling onto Route 743. Next stop. Maryland. We put out an interstate bolo, be on the lookout. Meanwhile, I started reaching out to departments in every town the motel stationery came from. Scranton. Toledo. Lexington. Tallahassee. Des Moines. Boise. A pattern started to emerge, women missing near cheap motels, their last phone activity often linked to dating apps. All mid-20s to early 30s. All last seen wearing something casual. Jeans, tank tops, sneakers. One thing they all had in common. Vanilla perfume. Back in Harrisburg, I visited Jessica's parents. I had to. I owed them that much. Her father, Greg, was one of those quiet, strong-looking men. Probably hadn't cried since the 80s. But when I told him what happened to her, not just the murder, but the way she died, he didn't say a word. He just clenched his jaw and walked into the backyard. Her mom collapsed into my arms. She said Jessica was careful. Always texted her when she got home. Used pepper spray. Even shared her location with friends. But none of that mattered. Because monsters like Brian, or Brent or Lucas or whoever the hell he was, they don't follow rules. They study them. And then they get around them. That night, I went home and poured myself 3 fingers of cheap whiskey. I stared at my reflection in the kitchen window and didn't recognize the man looking back. Not because I was broken. Because I was angry. This wasn't just another psycho. This was a man who planned, adapted, and walked free while entire families were left wondering if their daughters just got tired of life and ran off. And we still didn't know his real name. Until we got a hit on a rest stop gas station camera just outside of Frederick, Maryland. He was in the background, blurry, but clearly him, grabbing a soda, walking like nothing was wrong. Wearing a Phillies cap, black hoodie, jeans. Just a normal guy. Not a care in the world. But here's the kicker. He wasn't alone. There was a new girl with him. And she was smiling. When we spotted the girl in that gas station footage, everything went into overdrive. She was young, 22, maybe. Curly brunette hair. Red puffer jacket. She had a gentle smile, the kind you wear when you're a little nervous but trying to hide it. She was holding a caramel latte. Looking up at him like she was comfortable. He was playing the role again. Charmer. Listener. Not a single red flag in sight. The timestamp was from 2 hours earlier. We had 2 hours to catch up. I called in every favor I had. We sent out her image to every nearby precinct, hospital, and gas station. 2 names popped up from social media scouring. The red jacket belonged to a woman named Rachel Carter, 24, from Hagerstown. Graphic designer. Quiet online presence. Active on 2 dating apps, one of which matched the pattern we'd seen before. We called her phone. Straight to voicemail. Her last message to her roommate said she was going on a quick coffee date with a guy named Nick. She even dropped a pin, a diner about a mile from that gas station. But that was the last anyone heard from her. We flew out to the diner. A little retro spot called Ellie's Kitchen, checkerboard floors, worn red booths, neon pie signs flickering against the window like a slow heartbeat. The waitress remembered them. Yeah, couple came in maybe 3 hours ago. He was sweet. Polite. Paid cash. Ordered pancakes. She didn't eat much. He said they were headed to see a film festival in Harper's Ferry. Bullshit. We checked the parking lot cameras. He was smart, parked way out back, in the blind spot. But a traffic cam at a nearby intersection caught their blue Charger heading southbound. The road split from there, 3 different highways, a dozen possible small towns. That's when we made a desperate move. We put Rachel's photo on the news. It was risky. We'd never done that with an active victim before. But within 30 minutes, we got a call from a teenage cashier at a campground shop near Kitokteen Mountain Park. That girl in the red jacket? I saw her. Like, half an hour ago. She came in looking kinda off. Bought a bottle of water and chapstick. The guy with her seemed, I dunno, off. Real calm. Too calm. We hit the road. Sirens on. The campground was desolate. Midweek, off-season. Pine trees lining the lot like silent sentinels. Dirt roads. One dusty RV parked at the edge of the woods. It was nearly sunset when we rolled in. We started knocking on every cabin. Most were empty. Until we got to cabin 6. The door was closed, but there were faint drag marks in the dirt leading around the side, like something heavy had been pulled. Or someone. We drew weapons. Knocked. Silence. Knocked again. Then, a soft thump inside. Like a heel against wood. I called out. Rachel? My name is Detective Warren. We're here to help. No answer. We kicked in the door. The cabin was dim. Curtains drawn. A small electric heater hummed in the corner. There was a folded blanket on the couch, 2 half-drunk mugs of tea, and silence. Then we heard it. Crying. It was coming from under the floorboards. I found the hatch under a throw rug. Opened it slowly, gun raised. Rachel was there. Zip-tied, duct tape over her mouth, curled into the fetal position. Eyes wide with terror. Her lip was split, and one eye was swelling. She had bite marks on her shoulder. She shook violently when she saw us. But then, she screamed. Not because of us. Because he was still there. He came out from behind the bathroom door like a ghost, a kitchen knife in his hand, face blank. I don't even remember what I shouted. Something about dropping the weapon, hands up. But he didn't listen. He lunged. Shots fired. 3 rounds to the chest. He hit the ground like a sack of wet cement. Knife still in hand. Blood poured from his mouth. He gurgled once. And then, he laughed. That kind of soft, hiccupy chuckle that sounded more like a child remembering a joke. His mouth twitched. Then he died. I pulled Rachel out myself. She kept asking me if he was really gone. I said yes. But I didn't believe it. Not fully. We identified him a week later. His real name was Ethan Cole. Born in New Jersey. Foster care since he was 6. Juvenile record sealed. No social media. No fingerprints in the system until his death. He was a ghost wearing masks: Brent, Nick, Lucas, Travis. All lies. We found his storage unit 2 weeks later. I won't even talk about what was in there. Just know this, he'd been doing this for 8 years. Over a dozen women, maybe more. And Rachel? She was the only one who made it out alive. She testified. Quietly. With strength I still don't understand. Then she moved across the country, changed her name. We still email once a year. She's the reason I never quit. People think the worst part of being a detective is the crime scenes. That's not it. It's the after. After the guy is dead. After the paperwork is filed. After the press conferences. That's when it hits you. You sit alone in your car with your badge on your lap and realize you were too late. We saved Rachel. But there were 12 others we didn't. We went through the storage unit for 5 straight days. Ethan Cole had kept everything: trophies, IDs, even strands of hair in labeled baggies. A serial killer's scrapbook. He had voice memos of conversations with victims, and even more disturbing, recordings of him talking to himself. Same soft voice. Gentle. Calm. Talking about how lovely this one is, too pure to let go. The locker was in the back corner of a rusted-out facility behind a gun shop in Sharpsburg. Dark, no cameras, and it reeked of mildew and metal. We opened box after box, every one a silent scream from someone who would never come home again. We matched 11 missing persons cases right away. The 12th, a girl named Danielle Thomas, was still technically, voluntarily missing, on her case file. Turns out, her family was told she ran off to Arizona. No one had ever looked for her. We held a meeting with all the families. Gave them closure. I wish I could say that helped. One mother, Marie, I'll never forget her, collapsed in my arms sobbing after I gave her the pendant we found in his glove box. It was engraved with her daughter's initials. She kept whispering, "I knew it. I knew it. I knew it." I still have the burn marks on my heart from that day. But there's more. There always is. We discovered something chilling during a search of his digital backups. Ethan wasn't just randomly picking victims from dating apps. He was watching certain profiles for months, tracking their routines, jobs, hangouts. His notes were methodical. Strategic. Sometimes, he'd even insert himself into their lives weeks before the actual date. He'd show up at their gym, or in line behind them at a grocery store. Make accidental contact. He didn't hunt. He cultivated. And the scariest part? In his folder labeled pending, we found 7 more names. 7 women he hadn't reached out to yet. 7 women who were about to meet a polite guy on a dating app who loved dogs, long walks, and 90s horror flicks. We contacted every one of them. 6 had never heard of him. The 7th? She had a date scheduled with him, that weekend. That saved my soul, a little. But not enough. I still see his face when I close my eyes. Not the killer, no, not that look. I see the face he used on dates. That fake, soft smile. The kind, almost shy eye contact. like someone trying too hard to seem normal. And I wonder how many people walk past men like that every day. At Target. At the movies. On Tinder. We think monsters look like monsters. They don't. They look like Nick with the nice hair. Or Brent with the firm handshake. Or Travis with the book recommendations. They smile wide. And wait. I left the department 6 months later. You can only carry so many ghosts before they start carrying you. Now I teach criminology part-time at a local community college. Talk to kids about red flags, predator psychology, how not to get yourself hurt. And every year, I tell them the story of Ethan Cole. Not for the shock factor. But because I need them to know, sometimes evil isn't in the shadows. Sometimes it's in the booth across from you, offering to split a slice of pie. Stay safe out there. And if someone seems too perfect online, trust your gut. We almost lost Rachel because she ignored hers. We did lose 12 others who never had the chance.